I hate that
Thank you
feeling.
for coming.
There's nobody on.
Oh, good.
Bill's online.
Oh, there he is.
Bill.
Probably sitting with his feet in a bucket of ice and
Can you hear us, Will? He's muted.
Can you want me to?
Do you wanna-
read him?
Can do this.
Yeah, I'm here.
oh, good,
All right,
okay,
Will.
there he is.
Yeah, now the wife isn't feeling good. That's why I'm not there.
Okay,
Good. Can we get started, Dorothy? Excellent. Good. Well, welcome, everyone. It's so nice to see everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful summer. Thank you all for being here. Let's start. We'll call the meeting to order. I'm Mike Corsi. I'm committee chair.
Paul Stern, vice chair.
Debbie Flato Fontaine.
Martina Wharton.
Sheila Amder. And Will Biggle.
Will Beagle, yeah.
Great. Okay, let's start with approval of minutes. Did everyone get a chance to look at the minutes?
Yeah, just one correction. Dorothy, I marked present and also absent.
That was your test today.
Oh, that was a
Mike and I were talking about that
Yeah.
yesterday.
No, because I was so surprised I was there and then I saw I wasn't, so
Which word?
wasn't there.
And under updated the C on the second page.
So that
So
was my grandson's graduation.
RFP has ended, and then we're gonna receive an RFQ. Is that something there?
I
Is that
didn't
just a
catch
little
that.
typo?
Is an
On page 4 of 6?
RFQ is a completely different thing.
Yes.
That is a
Yeah.
good thing.
Request
Okay.
for qualification.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just needed to know
So
what that
it's
was.
So it's not
okay.
incorrect, it's just.
We'll get you an acronym handbook.
Thank you, I know. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay. Do I hear a motion?
I move the minutes be approved as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Both? Excellent. Hey, I don't, any members of the public? I don't see any. Is anyone online?
No.
I see anyone? Okay, let's move on to new business. So 4A, ARPA funds update. So one of my concerns was that they had to be committed by the end of the year. So I called Jennifer and she said the deadline's been extended, but I did not write that down, so I apologize.
Okay.
But we do not have that burning deadline on us, so that's good.
Do we know,
But that doesn't mean we can slack off.
did the town, did Jennifer provide how they're being allocated in town?
No, I didn't know.
It's a
What
whole
was-
lot of things, it's a big.
I know,
one.
but what did
Yeah.
we have question about whether they should be perhaps some of it allocated to housing or?
Well, we
acquiring?
have, what is it, 350,000?
I thought it was 500,000.
It went into
Budget.
the trust fund?
Yeah, I thought it was
Yeah.
500,000.
Yeah, there are funds committed to it,
Okay,
and originally, I have it in my notes somewhere. I should know this. I
well, what was your
apologize.
concern then, Michael?
I was concerned because the project with the housing authority is getting delayed.
Hmm.
And the progress with WAME is
Right,
not going as fast. And I was thinking, oh, we got these two beautiful projects coming down the pipeline. We can start committing those
yeah,
ARPA funds to
right. They have to be committed.
accelerate those. And we had this 12/31 deadline, so I called Jennifer and expressed my concern because we weren't moving forward. We didn't have anything else in the pipeline. And she said, oh, that got extended, but I forget what she said.
So we actually, for what's been committed to the Housing Trust Fund, that means we have to commit it to a project.
Apparently. I don't know the rules.
I wrote down 350,000.
Okay, well, that might be correct.
So,
I know that maybe it was the town council that
Anyway.
budgeted 500,000 or something.
so we don't have huge pressure. I don't, I
Right.
think it would be really a disgrace if we had a deadline and missed it.
Yeah, that would
But
be
we're
a
done.
disgrace.
So that's good.
Are you sure the town has committed it,
Yes,
but to our
To us,
trust fund?
yes.
But that has to go to a brick and mortar, to a shovel ready or too old?
I think it's pretty flexible.
All right, we should find out from
Yeah.
Jennifer if we have, it
Okay,
actually,
she said she's gonna come in later, so let's,
okay, right.
we'll go back when Jennifer comes in. You can ask her questions. Good. Okay. She said she's gonna come in later in the meeting. Let's see. So 4B. So the state just released new percentages for all the towns. In 2022, Mansfield was at 6.3%. of our housing stock is affordable. In 2023, the new numbers, we dropped to 5.4. Jennifer wrote Mike Santoro and asked about that. And the reason for that is, so the percentage is the number of affordable divided by the total. And the reason we dropped is because the total increased, so the denominator increased. And the reason was that it dropped was in for 2022, they used the 2010 census data.
Mhm.
And for 2023, they used the 2020 census data.
So we've been working with old numbers for
Right,
a long
and
time.
I started looking at this and I was confused because if you look at our affordable housing
Right,
plan,
right.
it references the 2010 data. I was like, what?
So this is something we're gonna have to account for when we redo our affordable housing plan. Obviously.
So that's unfortunate. And yeah, we'll have to address it in the new plan. Paul, you mentioned something about a new rule that talks about housing unit equivalents.
There's a law that was approved, bill, that gives towns points
Right,
for affordable housing units that they've built.
right.
And I think there's, the way it's written, it sounds like some of the units that we've recently approved, like the standard and, well, the standard would be the big one, and Eagleville Green will qualify
Right.
for points.
For points for what?
And-
Well, and that's a
So-
good question. The
So
points
I
give
looked
you, work
at,
you toward exemption from 530G, 830G,
Right.
I believe.
you can get a 4-year
Yeah,
moratorium.
but we don't have enough points to do anything with it yet, but we're headed in that direction.
Right, so that's one of these things. We don't have our numbers tonight, but that's something. we wanna
And we should
process
ask
on.
Jennifer or somebody to build us a way to keep track of our points. So
Yeah,
that we'll know when something gets approved, how we're doing, a way to measure our progress.
Do we know, line any of those other, developments that have been approved of broken ground?
Do we know why they haven't?
Yeah, they haven't.
They have to, there's a whole lot of background work they have to do to get their zoning certificates and all kinds of administrative stuff. They have to submit all kinds of plans and things, and it takes a while. I think they're in, Jennifer knows more specifically, but they're in the works. It's just gonna take a while for them to get going.
okay,
I mean, the
so,
special permit is kind of at the front of a whole bunch of things they have to do.
Right.
so it's unfortunate that we dropped, but that just, it just says we haven't made enough progress on building new affordable units.
When you look at the list
Um,
though, and for comparable communities,
Yeah,
Mhm.
we're not doing so
We're not too
bad.
bad.
right.
Well, I wouldn't
We're not doing
do
great.
that as a comparison.
We have as many as Greenwich by percentage.
But I think
by their
the idea of
choice.
keeping track of the
Milton.
housing unit equivalent points, that's what they call them, HUEs.
Yeah,
Is a great idea, so I'll put that down as a follow-up item.
and we should
for
get
us.
some clarity on to what extent are these various projects qualifying, because I'm not
Right.
real sure how it works, but I think we're okay.
There was a little bit of back and forth with Mike. And it's not as straightforward as you think. It's got all kinds of details in it. So for certain units,
I did read
depending
about
on what
that.
percentage of AMI you're doing, you either get 1.5 points or 2 points and
Yeah.
all this stuff. So it's not a trivial thing to count our points, but it is something we should do. So I'll leave it on the list. And make sure that we start doing this and figure out a way to do this. But we're not ready to report our HUEs tonight,
No.
unfortunately. Good, anything else on that? So 4C, I keep as new business, updating our affordable housing plan. I think that's gonna be a big lift. We talked about this last meeting.
It's out there.
So the town's gonna hire a consultant to do update the town's plan of conservation and development. And the affordable housing plan will be part of that. And they sent out an RFP, and unfortunately, they only received one response. So they're sending out a RFQ,
Right.
and we don't know.
we don't know
what the
whether
status of
yeah,
that
okay.
is. So that's something to ask Jennifer when she gets back. Let's assume, we talked about it a little bit, that this is gonna happen in the fall. My thought is we wanna have a special meeting and just focus on that.
We should all go back and read it.
Yeah, and we should
Right,
mark it
right.
up.
Right.
Should probably
Right.
mark it up and have areas that need attention and you.
But I think, would you guys be willing to do a special meeting?
Sure.
And I think we can just focus on that and talk.
I'll be away part of September, but I'll.
Talk about,
I will also.
You know, I'm
The
going away
plan.
too, but I'm not sure when. I'm going to Spain.
yeah,
I'm going to Portugal.
Well,
I'll see you on the other side.
I'm going to
Spain,
Arizona too.
I'm going to both.
Are you going to Spain and?
Yeah, first Spain and then down into,
Maybe that.
and in September, we're going. I don't remember the
September.
dates.
where are you going, Will?
What's that?
Where are you going?
For what?
In September.
In September.
For vacation.
So
Everybody else is going away in September.
September's
Oh,
bad.
no, we're not going anywhere.
And then my daughter's getting married in October, so I'll be out for a few.
Should we target? Oh, I'm going away in October.
So you don't know your date. I kind of know my
I
dates.
know my dates.
I do
Yeah.
too.
September.
Can I send a
Yeah.
doodle around?
Yeah.
That's a good
Okay.
idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
So send doodle. That's the action.
Okay.
And then, once we have a date, then we can sort of put out the marching orders, like, okay, you gotta read this. And you
Well,
gotta
yeah,
come
my-
in with
my-
ideas so that we're productive.
My action plan for this, I just make myself a note that I'll print it out and I'll start reading it carefully and making notes on it so that we have I know
But,
what I think.
yeah. I think one thing I'm gonna do is go through, so. I was looking at Burlington, Vermont stuff. And Jennifer told me they're like the gold standard for affordable housing,
Really?
so.
Wonder what they do about students.
They have,
Right.
they have
They
quite a
have
few-
no- Do they?
they have students in Burlington.
I know, they do.
Yeah.
So you've been looking at what they're doing?
Just-
Burlington, Vermont? There's an issue about that I'll raise later, but. Because I still think it's the elephant in the middle of the room.
Okay. That's something in my throat all the
Rocket
time.
unquote.
So the only action there for now will be to get a meeting scheduled. And I'll just put a bunch of dates,
Okay.
and then you guys can just say yes or no. That's not too bad. I'll send a doodle around. And then we can. It's not gonna be before our next meeting. Maybe our next meeting, we can talk about what we want to have ready for the planning meeting.
Or the
I don't know. if you wanna-
PNC, the planning and
Yeah,
zoning?
just, no,
For the
for
affordable
uh,
housing
for
plan.
our-
meeting.
For
Oh,
our special meeting.
okay.
Do you want to discuss that now or wait to our next meeting?
We should probably all go back and read it.
Yeah, I don't have anything I can contribute meaningfully at this point.
Okay,
Although I have a couple of suggestions I'll make under another part of it.
that's gonna be homework for our next meeting.
Do I have a copy of that?
Oh, it's
before we start
online.
reading? It's online.
The
Okay.
affordable housing
Yeah.
plan.
Plan is
Yeah,
online,
it's online.
okay, good. So I don't think I have it in my. I have the table of contents, but not the whole.
Yeah, no, it's online. So maybe I'll put that in the doodle or something. Or I'll do it for our next meeting. Good.
Or
Any-
can Dorothy, would it make it easier if Dorothy sent out the link?
Yeah. that would work.
Can you send out the link, Dorothy, for the affordable housing?
Thank you, thank you.
Good. So anything else on that? Any other suggestions? Good, okay, so let's move on to 4D. I called it public meeting on affordable housing, but Debbie and I both want to call it Affordable Housing 101.
Right, yeah.
And maybe that should be tied into the whole process of the affordable housing plan. Having that up for comment and then laying out what it's all about. I don't know what you guys have talked about.
I was gonna,
This was just actually a request from the Human Rights Commission that they thought just kind of doing something, very basic, just letting people who don't have a good understanding of what Mansfield is doing and how that may affect them and just what the general plans are, to have some conversation around that. So next week, Michael is going to come to the Human Rights Commission. We meet on Zoom, but the whole committee will be invited and.
so they have
Let's
a
talk
regular
about it.
meeting next Wednesday at 7.
First
Yeah, I
Wednesday
think I
of the
put it on my
Oh.
calendar.
Cause
We'll
I've
have
done,
the
We'll
link.
send out the
I've done
Zoom link
this.
to you, the meeting agenda and the Zoom link, yeah. That'll be, I'll ask to get that will be sent out tomorrow.
So the whole idea here is to kind of establish a basic fact-oriented understanding primer, so that when folks start coming to our affordable housing plan, looking at it, they'll have the groundwork, they'll have a fundamental understanding of the principles involved in the issues and the facts underlying it, so
Right,
they can appreciate the
Right.
plan and comment sensibly about it.
right.
So not
Radical
only-
idea, educating the public.
So, as an
not only
example,
technical,
as an example, we had a gentleman from the public come and say there was a correlation between affordable housing and crime.
Yes.
And he was concerned.
Mhm.
And we sent him the report by the Mirror and ProPublica, which explains that correlation.
Right. And maybe no
So
impression on him
this is-
whatsoever.
This is in a person's mind,
right.
but then on the other hand, do people know about all the positive stuff about affordable housing,
can I
right?
just,
mean,
I think this
that-
is,
The ties to economic development.
I think the people that will come are the people that are already convinced and don't need to be convinced. I mean, we did, Deborah, I don't know if you were involved at the time, but we did this big forum on affordable housing at the Interfaith Group.
Mhm.
We had speakers, we contacted town officials in all the surrounding communities. We did a broad, social media thing, and we got, I don't know, maybe 40 people, which was really good from the whole region, but it was already the converted. It was many members of the commission, almost no public officials at all from anywhere. And my suggestion as we think about this is tying it to concrete issues in Mansfield,
Right.
being and why we're talking about it, and tying it to,
Specific examples.
yes,
of
specific examples of
popped
people
up
who
in
are
this.
working, making X amount of dollars, what the,
Yeah, yeah.
rather than giving them all the information about different kinds of housing and
No.
So
high,
this-
high, medium.
This
and
just
low.
came out. This is in the communications. And it does it at the state level. Connecticut ranked number 11 for the worst housing
Yeah.
for renting. And it says, for someone who works 40 hours a week, 52 weeks a year, for them not to pay more than 30% of their income on housing, they need to make $34.54 an hour.
That's the partnership with strong communities, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Right.
shocking. People
Right.
don't know
Right.
this. And you think about, young people just starting, it's like, how do you buy a house? How do you even
You don't.
rent, right?
They live home.
So I
They
think
live home.
this is that type of information. If the more refined to Mansfield we can get it, the better.
Yeah, this is more of a softer
Right,
discussion, you know, with.
Right.
With examples, as you said, and more from a human rights perspective, you know, how do we offer affordable housing options in our town? And
Right.
why is it important? And how does that affect people's
Yeah.
lives and the ability to live in this town and to send their children to school?
no,
You know, that type of.
Yeah, there's a ton of anecdotal information that you can
Yeah.
use to
Oh,
so
illustrate.
I think
Yeah, we've got a
pooling
lot of
that
articles on
content
it.
together will be
Yeah.
a big task and filtering it and getting it.
Mhm.
The next step is what? To attend the meeting next week of the Human Rights Commission, right?
Yes, that's
To-
what
to
they,
start
that's
the
what they have
discussion.
requested, to
Okay.
just start the discussion and perhaps think about a fall date or
Right.
just a time period. when we
Right,
might do
and
that.
format
Would
and
be
stuff.
appropriate.
What time is that
And-
meeting?
It's
It's
at
at
seven,
7. And
and
Debbie
we'll send you.
promises to put this on the front of the schedule.
Yes, yes, oh, of course, yeah, you don't want to sit through the whole meeting.
So we'll distribute the link to
Yeah.
everybody.
And while we obviously can't educate the entire town, the mission here is to educate the town council
Hmm.
so that they
Yeah.
understand
Yeah,
with some sophistication what the best way forward is. And so the hangers on, the public that does pay attention, that would otherwise maybe push back at the council, won't feel like it needs to, because everyone will be on the same. The community that is involved in making these decisions will mostly be on the same page. Obviously, you
I mean,
know,
if you want to know what people think of affordable housing, just look at Mansfield neighborhood, whatever that site is.
neighborhood preservation,
Yeah,
Rebecca Shaker.
And no, there's another one, there's another next door, there's another site next door.
There's Connecticut Connection, then there's Neighborhood Preservation, that's
that's-
Rebecca
right.
Schaefer. And then there's Next Door or something, I don't
Right.
see that.
Right.
Well, that one, this was when, they just started Eagleville
Eagle
Green.
Green.
Did you see that? It was unbelievable. I mean, I just tried to put up factual information about what this was all about, because it was unbelievable, some of the crap.
Well,
I
and
actually
you
had
know,
someone call
there's-
me and ask me about, if there were, not, because I can talk to you, Bishop, but, are there any,
Criminal.
illegal aliens? And I said, "Oh, I didn't know we had illegal aliens." And she said, "Oh, no, you're being funny." I said, I mean,
I
it
know.
blew my
How-
mind.
Yeah,
It
I know,
blew my
to even
mind.
use that. term
when,
is so
when the town was
And the answer is no,
campaigning
they
to-
don't qualify.
the referendum to build a new school, there was a huge amount of chatter on social media, much of it completely off base, uninformed, misinformed.
Of course.
And we devoted, the committee that we set up to support the referendum, devoted actual time and energy to just monitoring all those things and answering and correcting all the misinformation with factual statements
Right.
about the situation to tamp down
Right.
the
referendum.
outrage and the misunderstanding. And it was,
Right.
took a lot of time and effort.
Right,
But I think it might have paid off too, because when it came time to vote, there, you know,
right.
so I remember very clearly when Chris Murphy did the town meeting about affordable housing, and it was Eastern Connecticut, and he said his biggest fear is rural Connecticut, because if a place does not have affordable housing, then not enough people to keep the grocery stores open and the schools, and there's like this spiral of things that just, the businesses go out and leave,
Yeah,
the schools become empty, you can't justify fixing the school because there's not enough kids. and it's like-
population shrinks and, yeah.
So,
is that gonna happen in Mansfield?
not in
No.
Mansfield's a little different, but he was very concerned about Eastern Connecticut.
Mhm.
Good, so anything else on that tonight, or we have an
No, I
action
think
to
that
get to
sounds
the
good.
meeting next week?
Mhm.
That's good. Let's see, okay, 4E, Sustainable Connecticut Certification, I'm not sure how many people saw this. That committee met on June 12th, Jennifer, Paul and I attended, and we were requested that we attend, represent this committee. They are, Mansfield's updating their certificate or applying for a new certificate of sustainability. In 2025, we're going after gold. We're currently silver. So they were meeting with all the committees to see who could contribute to this application. We went through the material and found that our committee can contribute a lot.
And it already, pretty much already has.
Yeah.
Everything that they have a checklist of things they want your town to be doing. We've already
A
done.
lot of things we've
All right.
already done, so it's completed work. The timing's good because the previous application was done before this committee was active, and then we did a bunch of work in our first year and a half.
Mhm.
And now that's ready for this new application. So if you're interested in participating on this, I think, I'm not sure when.
Is there anything more to do?
Well,
I
they're
thought you
gonna
filled
come
out
to
those
us.
forms.
Yeah,
What
but
does it
they're
give
gonna
us
come
besides a
to
gold
us.
star? So,
They're gonna come to us and ask for details.
Oh, okay.
So if
Send
you're
it.
interested in working on that, let me know.
what does it give us besides a gold star?
Some sort of recognition that
Well, it'll be nice.
Yeah.
Gold certificate for Mansfield.
it's
For
it's a mark of
sustainability.
progress or something. I had the same question, like. you know,
I mean,
what-
does that mean the Department of Housing is gonna give us preference for a project?
Nope,
No.
I don't, it's not even a government sanction.
No, I know.
I don't know what it is,
It's this.
but it's based here in Mansfield, so.
Yeah,
So anyway, that'll
Understand what they
be
say.
ongoing effort that we'll work on, support this effort. I don't think it'll be too heavy a lift because a lot of the stuff we did is already done. Um,
Michael, is this the same Sustainable Connecticut where the town just hired a consultant to work on? It's a woman. She came to our Human Rights Commission. meeting
I'm
last year.
guessing it is. So
Okay.
Sustainable Connecticut is
Yeah.
this independent
It's-
group,
I didn't bring my laptop.
and they're the ones that award the certificate.
Yeah, right. I don't remember.
The woman, I forget her name, that started that is
Yeah.
what is-
leading our
What
committee
is her
on
name?
sustainability.
Yes, yeah.
And she just
yeah.
stepped down from that
Mhm.
position.
She lives in
So,
town, I can't think of her.
yeah,
Her husband's on the town council, and I can't think of their names.
so there's a very close tie to us.
Mhm.
So she'll be disappointed if we don't get a
Yeah.
grant. Anyway, that is due in 2025.
Mhm.
So we have quite a bit of time here, but I think they're gonna be working on this and pinging us regularly for information, so that's to be expected. Okay, so that's under control. 4F, revenue sources. So I'm learning about this, trying to learn about it. It's very complicated. Typical projects involve funding from many sources, as we know, as we've heard from Rebecca Field. And multiple partners working together. We, the town, are going to have to bring funding to the table, as well as advocacy. I think we need to have reliable funding that's coming in yearly that we can sort of count on, that's not hit or miss. The fee in lieu, we think is gonna go away.
yeah,
So that's one consideration. We're working on the tax abatement ordinance. Talk about later. That's a nice tool. I wanted to have a discussion of things that we think we should be doing. I would be happy to lead that discussion by suggesting that we do a dedicated tax for affordable housing.
Well, with Will, and I, quite some time ago, we did a pretty comprehensive
Oh, that's right,
overview
right.
of housing trust fund revenue sources. I'm sorry, I should have looked it up.
I apologize.
And we looked at, it was, I think, one of the Midwestern states. I don't know
Yes,
if you remember, Will, was it Michigan or?
I forgot, but I'm gonna try to look it up here.
In
Wait,
our
but-
minutes?
But they,
yes.
yeah, I know I have it in my file, but I have the report.
I have
But
it
there
in
were
a
some
folder,
very interesting
Yeah,
methodologies in that about how to get money into the trust fund. There I can't tell you what they were now, but I found some of them quite intriguing. So if you want, I'll look that up
That would be great.
and send out.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
One of the
resend
things we-
that to everyone.
one of the things we need to articulate for the benefit of the public is that who should be paying for affordable housing, for government affordable housing effort? Is it gonna be on the, right now, if you just look at the system now, developers pay it all. They either pay it by building units that they give over to affordable housing, or they pay a fee in lieu, which they then use to raise the rents of their tenants. So if you stand on the moon and look, the tenants of these high density units are paying whatever affordable housing levy there is to, and is that fair to them? And is it the right thing for our community? And we need to, I think, have some
Yes.
explanation, some overview, why, how we spread the cost fairly to everyone and why we do that, because there's a benefit to everyone. And I
I
think,
think one thing I'd like to bring out is that there's a lot of funding from state and federal sources. And Mansfield should be in a position to take advantage of
But
those.
not for housing trust funds,
No, just for housing
for housing.
projects.
And I think
Right, but
as
if-
I think we have to be thinking beyond the Mansfield Housing Authority and the
Mm.
Development Corporation. There are other nonprofit housing developers. There's, for example, Chrysalis Center in Hartford. They were even asked, I think I mentioned this before, they were asked by the Department of Housing to come in and help finish, I think the former Hurley's, the apartments. NCCDC, which I helped found many years ago, but they're still an existing nonprofit housing corporation, but I don't know that they have any staff. They have some consultants, but they couldn't quite finish it. We're doing it for 4 years. So Chrysalis came in, they finished it, it's on its way. Chrysalis is a major developer of affordable housing in the state, and mainly aimed at people who are lower income. So one of the things I was gonna raise up here under old business under D was that maybe we should be along the way here thinking of what are our highest priorities that we want to see happen in the community? And then do an RFQ, request for, for qualifications for people who would meet those. And what, we can either put out a certain amount of money that would be awarded, or we could say what would be your, your requirements to meet these.
yeah, but that, to me, this discussion of where we get money for the housing trust fund is a much longer term, bigger question. For the next 100 years, let's assume we need to have money in the housing trust fund to leverage
Right,
corporations
right.
like this, to make them step up and take advantage of what they can do here. And we need to have a structure or a stream of money coming that can be used to grease the rail, oil the
Right, right.
machine, not to build necessarily, but
Right.
to encourage and incentivize.
Right,
Right.
so you look when,
And where should that money come from?
Well,
That's the
there's
question that we have to
We
answer
have,
here.
let's look up the report. We can, there are ways to do it, but I don't think we should wait till we find more ways to replenish the fund.
No, I'm not
Start-
suggesting
Right,
that, but we're just talking about this one subject of how we're gonna fund the trust fund.
so.
Your subject is more like, how are we gonna get some housing in here, which is a way more pressing issue, but
So as an example, the housing authority was here and they requested funding from us to do the planning, which was necessary for them to go out and get some more money.
Right.
Right,
And it's like they ask us for seed money to get this project going, and we need to have that kind of money to facilitate whoever it is,
Right.
whether it's them.
Well,
or
but I don't
someone
know that,
else.
I don't know if one of these much bigger nonprofit developers would ask us for seed money for planning.
we might not,
They might,
No.
but they might need matching
but if
money
they,
or.
yeah, they're right. So if we had $1 million to give, let's say, for age-restricted housing, which I'd still like to see in terms of, for the fastest increasing group of homelessness, people over, who are older. But let's just say we said, we'd like to know, we want to know who is, if we can allocate between these amounts, whatever it is, put out a request for qualifications, you send it out widely. It might even be that we'd have to get like the consultant, the housing authorities, someone like this to help the town manage this.
Yeah. And we have a lot of money that we could do that with. All we need is an idea what to do.
Yeah,
But that money's gonna eventually be gone, and we're gonna have to have more money, and
yes.
that's what we're
So we have
talking
to
about.
work on both,
Right, yeah.
yes.
So I
And-
looked, I'd like to give you an example. This is from Burlington they have a dedicated tax. And this is the numbers. So their current tax rate, they charge 1 cent per $100 of assessed property value. So the median assessed value for a single family house in Burlington is 230,000. So that median household would pay $23 per year in tax for affordable housing. Okay. For a 3-unit rental building, the median assessed value is 439,000, so they pay $44. And for a commercial building, the median assessed value is like $600,000, so they pay $60.
So do they make a distinction between a levy against a private residence versus a commercial building? Is it, but it's all the same rate?
Yeah, you can see the numbers are all.
I mean, it-
50%.
It would be great if you could send us all that. And we can
So
put
I'll
it
send
with
you
the
the
rest of
link.
this.
There's not
Okay.
much info on that page other than this.
So that goes into a fund for,
It goes into their trust fund and they say they expect to generate 370,000 per year. So if you guys think this
It's a
is
big, much bigger.
a reasonable thing, then I would volunteer to try to chase this down for Mansfield and just put up numbers. So we do 1 cent per 100, 2 cent per 100, 3%.
Well, let's look
I-
at all the
The
possibilities.
median house,
Possibilities.
The possibilities that we already had laid out in a report.
Right, so you're gonna
Previously.
send that to
Right,
everybody, right?
and
the median home price in Mansfield is $223,570.
But you
I
have
think
to
this
know
would
how
be a
many
very
there are.
unpopular,
Oh, well, the
Thank
minute you say the
you.
word tax,
I would
people are gonna go
not
crazy.
necessarily start,
throwing
Right,
it around right
but
now.
It's a social justice issue. That's what it really comes
Well,
down
that's-
to.
we
that's
can
why I
feel
think
that
we have to
way.
have the
all
predicate
five of
laid,
us.
that here's why we all have to
So
support this.
I'm willing to push that rock up the hill for this,
Okay.
because I think we need tools.
No, I think we need tools too, but let's look at all the possible tools.
Right, but we
That
can't,
we can.
right, but I'm saying by next.
I mean, if you want to go work on it, that's fine.
Okay,
I'm just saying, let's look at all the possible.
There are
tools.
other, some towns attach a certain amount of fee to building permits.
right.
That's another,
Yeah,
another way to go.
right.
We don't, and we
Popular,
don't
Right.
want one
Right.
big stream. We don't want to take
Right,
from everywhere. We want to scrape lots of it from all directions so that nobody gets too pained by it. There could be, I suppose you could have I don't know how it would work, real estate tax, transfer. There's all kinds of ways that
Right.
money gets scraped
Did you
around.
find the list, Will, by any chance?
Yes, I did.
Yay, enlighten us.
Okay, it comes from Minnesota.
Right,
It says local housing trust funds, whatever it is, ways to fund housing trust fund. 1, HRA levies, Housing Redevelopment Authority, bond proceeds, tax increment financing. It says towns count on future property tax to fund the trust. Donation or private contributions, grants and loans from government or private sources, loan repayment proceeds, and appropriations by local government.
and then the report that was written, these are all spelled out in terms of how they might work, as I recall.
Yeah. So we've already had the town council has already given the trust money this year, right?
Yes.
right.
So we might want
ARPA,
to, yeah, convince them or persuade them to do that every year to a certain
Right,
amount.
right,
Right.
And you don't have to
So
call it
that's
a
one
tax.
path.
you know.
So that's an excellent list, but we need to understand
Right, so
these items.
let me look, get the report.
Yeah,
You're gonna get the report.
No,
Okay.
we wrote a report.
Right, okay.
and we want to know where the financial impact is. Who's paying these
Right.
by
Right.
these various means.
So we could have a more detailed discussion on this in September?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
The other thing that you might want to look for is what I tried to find the town's grand list, what the total assessed value of our grand list is. And if you take a penny for every $100 of that grand list, how much money is that? That sounds like a lot of money because our grand list is like $95 billion, something crazy big number like that. So I don't know what kind of number do we need to generate? We have no idea. We don't want to get too much because then we'll be,
Right, but
Put
I
it in there.
think, the fee in lieu is not something that we can count on every year, even if it survives, right?
So,
right.
I mean,
No, and it's all in the backs of tenants.
so just from a political standpoint, in terms of convincing people why this is so important, if we start doing something concrete, like over 55 housing, which is very popular, and people say, oh, look what we can do, look what we can leverage. So we have to, let's keep this housing trust fund going.
Yeah,
right,
To get money, if people think we're getting money, what are we doing with it?
right. Like
Right.
if we can say every dollar in the housing trust fund can produce $10 of public or nonprofit investment in our town, then we can show that it's a
right. So
valuable.
that's part
thing.
of this workshop, right? That we do with
Yeah.
people to
Yeah,
show,
I wanted to go back to 4D, when I said it was really a social justice issue. So I think this joint meeting around human rights is to discuss those issues that people might bring up, like why do we need affordable housing? And why do we need affordable housing in this town? And how is it going to impact me and my children going to school and my lifestyle? And it's just like that comment that was made to you that was so degrading about that population, right, Martina?
Yeah.
So it's how do we, in that meeting, if that does come up, and I suspect there will be some people who might say that, what does this have to do with me? Why should I be responsible for other people's housing to make it
Right.
affordable for them?
Right.
yeah, we have to
But on the
answer
other
that.
side of that, whenever there have been meetings, public hearings about the affordable housing plan or public hearings about what planning and zoning put in their regulations in regard to requirements for affordable housing, the public comment has been very positive.
Yeah.
Just as
yeah.
just were the surveys, the town did some of
Yeah.
these
Yeah,
surveys.
as long as,
Yeah.
the only thing,
To this with a lot
the
of
only
people
criticism was
responding.
we don't, we have too much student housing and not enough of the other kinds.
Right,
Right.
exactly, and that's right,
The surveys were like.
yeah,
Okay,
You're
so,
right, it may not come up at all.
pardon me,
That may not come up at all, the kind of the social
Yeah,
justice part of it.
yeah,
And if it does, then you just need to be able to address that.
so for this item, we have two actions, I think. Sheila's gonna find the report, send it to everybody,
right,
try to study it and discuss it next meeting.
Mhm.
I'm gonna keep it as new business because we haven't really scratched. the
Yeah, okay,
surface.
right.
I'm gonna see what it's like to do a tax approach and try to push that a little up the hill. I'll see how much progress I get, but I'm not committing to it. If I come back with 0, don't hold me down. Okay, anything else on that? Anything else we should be doing? I agree, Sheila, we should be lining up projects.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna,
So,
I would like to take on the task of trying to articulate, if you want to call it this, a philosophy or a underlying principle that we can support with some, that here's why we want to change the way affordable housing trust fund is funded. We want to share the burden or something along those lines.
And there might even be there's certainly a mission outlined in the affordable housing. plan.
I'll look around and see what I can use as a kind of a, get me started.
Yeah.
So we have, this is a little off track, but we've talked to the housing authority about Palenco Estates. And we talked to Wayne about their desire to do a project in Mansfield. And I'm sure if those projects move forward, we could probably exhaust our trust fund. I'm guessing. But do we want to talk about other projects and try to
Well,
initiate other?
I
things?
really, so it's very difficult to look at the affordable housing that's being built, including Eagleville Green, the Standard and all the other apartments,
Right,
when I think most of them are going to be taken up by graduate students and graduate student families who qualify under
Right.
the rules. And this is an issue we keep skirting. I realize that you can't discriminate if they meet the requirements, but that isn't the issue. The issue is that we have a university that does not address this. They did years ago, and I know if you say, everybody says nobody does it anymore, but I don't care what that is. They're basically robbing the town because of their inaction of having, in terms of social justice, housing that's available to working,
Sure, of course.
working, class and working poor families.
Who may stay,
And the town doesn't address it with the university, nobody addresses it, and I think it's very hard to keep working on projects that we know are, including Eagleville Green, because they're gonna be very happy to get the
Mhm.
graduate students in there because they pay their rent
wow,
and they don't have to worry about them. I'm not being cynical. I think that's actually the case. So that's why I mentioned potentially thinking of what our top priorities are. And of course, the council would have to agree with all this, and then developing an RFQ related to people who want to meet those priorities. So for example, for over 55 housing, there are federal funds available. And I think there might be, was it Ray? Department of Agricultural funds available to this community. Or if we say we want to have a mixed rental housing that is aimed at low-income working families. I've raised the issue with the housing authority. I know they can't turn away grad students, but how are they marketing? How are they going to market these? Are they going to be marketing these units well, first of all, with the Department of Social Services, but through WAME and through various.
I think Rebecca can answer those questions if we want to ask her to come and answer
Well, I
how they're
did
going to market.
raise it, and it said you can't discriminate against grad students, but
Well, the other two things, I'd like to say two things. One is, we're talking about 30%ers or 60% AMI people. We don't want projects that are just all poor people. We don't want to reinvent Cabrini
yeah.
Green in Chicago or something and, scrape all the low-income people into one project. So that means we have to find some kind of a market rate versus affordable blend that
That's the only
works
way
in
that
our
you can
community.
you can pay for it.
Right.
On
So
the other
there's
hand,
that.
with over 55 housing, you don't necessarily have to have market.
That's true.
You might have to have market rate to make it affordable, but
right.
So that's one thing. The other thing is the point that you make about Yukon not helping. We have this huge blind spot right up the street where we don't get any cooperation from them or any input from them about what they might be able to do to this. The governor is making a big deal out of housing being the #1 state issue.
right.
There's a giant state institution right up there. It's got land all over the place, empty land right across our street.
Empty.
And we don't have any conversation with them about what they can do to contribute to this problem. And for their own,
So it's coming up with a
Sad.
position that we ask the council to consider and to adopt and to bring it as a high level
Yeah.
talking point with university.
We've had this discussion.
Yes, we have.
And we haven't resolved how to address it. so.
Well,
My idea
I know.
That
it's the
doesn't
com-
seem too
it's the
popular, right?
committee, Yeah,
is to go to the university and say, give us land.
yeah, but
Give
that's
us
fine.
land.
No, but yes, but
Give
the
them some.
council has to do.
Well, yeah,
that.
of course they do. We can't do anything on our own.
Right, and so,
Get the council to say, give us
and
land.
we also go to the governor, we get Greg and May and
Yeah,
we get other,
I
you know,
do.
well, the governor, remember the
spoken
governor
to-
intervened when the university bought
Yeah.
that land out from underneath the developer.
I ran this idea right, but by May Flexer and um Pat Boyd, my rep, because he also represents parts of Mansfield.
I couldn't
And
think of
they
it.
didn't know anything about it, of course, but it didn't strike them as a bad idea. They didn't say, oh, that's terrible.
Yeah,
I mean, I think there needs to be some discussion between the town of Mansfield and the Yukon Board of Trustees about what the university can do to facilitate affordable housing in the immediate area around the University of Connecticut, where their own students,
right,
the presence of their students has driven up rents, taken away other kinds of housing from non-students,
So.
and they're not doing anything to
This-
compensate for that effect.
Right, we all know this. I think the main issue here is the communication.
Yeah,
It's not happening in any reasonable.
well, they have a
way. I
town
mean, They
gown.
have the committee and they go through their agenda
Well,
every month.
and they're talking
Well-
about residential life issues right now.
Right.
They just got some new
Right.
folks in there to talk about residential life,
So-
but that's not really the issue.
but I think rather than us worry about, that, I think we have to get the town council to be fully committed to this as something that they push.
Yes,
It doesn't matter what the weeds are at the university. It really matters whether the town politically is going to push this issue.
yes, that's right.
Make it a priority to do.
Yeah.
And,
Yes.
and to what extent can we create a fire in the town
Well,
council to make them want to
create a
do that?
fire by saying, look at Helinco Estates and also Eagleville Green. We don't know, it's not rented up yet. But how many of those are gonna be essentially graduate students who are needy? And, we feel bad about that, right? But Helinco is almost, Deborah said, I asked her,
Yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of grad students.
it's mostly
grad
grad
students.
students.
And they don't stay around.
No,
They don't stay
No, no.
around.
no,
She
they,
said they did, but
save
they
their
don't
bucks
stay
and then
around.
they go and buy a house, but.
Yeah.
So I think we raise that and it becomes a public issue. Not that you discriminate against needy graduate students, but that we should be going to the source of who should be dealing with this. However
Okay,
they deal
so
with it.
So what's the best path
we've
for
been,
doing it?
we've been talking about this and we go in, I'm not
We
being
go in
critical, we
circles.
go in circles, but
Yes.
does anyone have a motion at this point to draft something to the town council, to
Well, but
appear at the town council
They've all-
and speak publicly?
if you recall, I drafted a letter that was addressed
Yeah,
to the
but I
town
think that
council,
was-
the head of OPM, the
Yeah.
governor, a whole bunch of people. And it
Right,
was
but-
supposed to go somewhere and talk, someone's supposed to see it and nothing happened.
Right, but I think that was very specific because it was saying, give us land.
Yeah, well, that'd be a
Well,
big
But
contradiction.
I
So-
think we should present the bigger issue of
Okay.
saying, all UConn's not dealing with the housing issue and all the grad students are taking the affordable housing
No.
in the town and it's
Right.
hurting the
Yeah, I'm-
town's efforts in
Well, that's a
affordable
fair,
housing.
fair thing to do, so
So
we
that's-
want more communication.
Well, I would move that Affordable Housing Committee draft a position paper documenting, Dorothy, you getting this? Okay,
Recording.
okay. Documenting the impact of the lack of housing for needy graduate students and their families upon the town's supply of affordable housing.
Well,
And requesting that, you can add to, it, requesting that the town council make this a major issue in discussions with the university and begin looking for solutions.
right, not only,
to the
not just
problem.
because of grad students, undergraduate students are renting private homes all throughout the community,
Right.
lots of them. And that financial pressure, that market pressure
Mhm.
drives up the rents,
Right, and the.
which is good if you own the building, but it drives up the rents. And it forces less fortunate, non-students who can't pay those kind of rents to have to go look elsewhere to live. So that, they're creating a market pressure and they're not helping it.
I believe we have a motion.
Yeah, I second that motion.
Well, I wanna- And then discussion.
Discussion.
Question.
Who seconded? Martina?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, we both,
both.
Okay.
Both.
all of us are seconding.
So
Bill, you got a second
In-
faster, man.
in recent history, has anyone just called the appropriate person at the university and requested an appointment?
Who would that be?
Down in
We haven't
town?
found out who that is.
Who would that
right?
be?
Well,
I
Don't
can
we
find
talk
out.
It
about
isn't,
that?
you
I
can find out,
I
but it,
have
it
my-
has to
my
be a
cousin works in
policy.
that
Right.
department.
I mean, it has to come really from the president and the board of trustees
That's.
down in terms of the
Good.
kind of housing they're going to build. And what and who they're marketing it to.
Well, I suppose you could talk to the president,
Just a.
She's-
just
she's
a
the one who's-
communication,
sets,
just.
makes
a
I'm
chat
sure she's
saying
not
it was-
aware of the issue.
No.
How could she be?
Just a chat saying, I'm just speaking from.
You're right, we can
working
ask,
as a
what is your
professor for many years,
Yeah.
our president, or, we were able to talk to people in the community.
The
just
thing
make
is,
an appointment, go
I don't know
there.
that our committee ought to be doing it. I think the town council ought to be.
Oh,
doing
I agree,
it.
but.
So maybe we urge the town council to sit down with Redenka
Redenka.
and just have a chat and just like
No.
lay out the problem,
Just have a chat.
ask for some help.
Sure.
But also at the
Well, they
same,
can decide how they want to do it. We
Yeah.
can recommend things.
Well, they're gonna,
I don't know who's drafting this. Oh, that we're still in the discussion
Yeah.
phase.
Right,
Well,
right.
but if you
Yeah,
ask
I'll
for a
work
meeting
on
with the president, if you ask the town council to set up a
Yeah.
meeting with the president and to discuss this issue, you know that it's not gonna be two people. It's not gonna be the
No,
mayor.
right,
They're
right.
gonna bring a whole bunch of housing people and we're gonna bring a bunch of people.
I'm just thinking of something more informal, not starting with the president. Starting with someone who's working with student housing and maybe understands.
But they don't have any control over policy. They don't,
No, not policy.
Well,
but they
that's the
would-
problem.
But they would be able to give us maybe a suggested route to get to the right person to talk.
no, I'm more in
No,
favor of going right for the
disagree.
president.
I think it's gotta go up the ladder to the.
Well, sometimes presidents don't like that, though. They'll say, where did you, why are you coming to me,
Well,
why didn't
The
you
she's-
go
answer
to
would be
this-
because you're in charge
This
of the
head of the
university.
department,
But I don't think it's department heads can do anything about this.
You said board of trustees.
It's the board of trustees and whether they're going to adopt policies.
so for example, Deborah, this is
I was an associate dean and I could do zip about this.
Yeah,
I mean, if I brought it to anyone,
No,
they'd laugh at me.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about making the decision. I'm just talking about making an inroad, a first
Right.
communication.
I'd be more inclined to go right to the president and she could say, look, why don't you talk to so-and-so? In this
Right.
case, she's delegated the person to talk to you. And I don't,
If she delegates the task, at least it's the task.
and it's the president, and then they're doing the president's bidding, it's like riding to the
Well,
head of the Cheerios company.
I mean, I think
Speaking of
if
that.
we, and I'll work with Paul on this, but after we pass the motion, we can put some of the meat on the
Yeah,
bones.
we don't have the details
Whether it's
yet,
about
but I
land.
think that is.
Well,
an
we have
important
the
detail.
details about Helinco. I don't
No,
know.
I
anything
know, but I
about-
think the actual action that we're gonna request.
Yeah, right.
And Debbie's got a point, do we go to the top or not to the top?
Hmm.
And I think that's an important detail
Well,
Well,
that's the
for the
council's.
author of this document, whoever that remains to be seen.
isn't that, it's something the council is gonna have to figure out for itself. I mean, I don't know what kind of terms that the mayor and
we can
and
leave
those
it-
people are on with the university people. I think probably they have at least a talking relationship already.
So we can leave it vague,
Yeah,
or this document can leave this vague.
Yeah.
We ask that the town council addresses this issue with the university.
yeah, with the appropriate university, people.
People,
But we're very explicit about why,
yeah,
because it
Yes.
really hampers
yes.
the town's
Do we have the
capacity
numbers?
to develop affordable housing for working families
Well-
who are pushed out of, living here.
Do we have the
um,
data?
Rebecca Fields would know how many of Holinco Estates
Right.
people are graduate students. And I don't know about the Eagleville Green because it hasn't been inhabited yet, so that,
Right,
but,
But she is much implied that that's probably.
and she
maybe-
sort of understands this general
There's
situation.
2 units for Eagleville
But
Green.
that's their
existing home.
preference.
And the number of of
Didn't you have
private
that?
homes that are rented to to undergraduates. It's a huge number.
Mhm.
There's a list like 9 pages
Yeah,
long of
I see it
homes.
Just driving through town.
So that's a significant market pressure.
So we have a second, we're discussing. Are people ready to vote on this? I think we left it that it would be somewhat vague in terms of the action. Is that correct?
Well, let's get did you want to write it? Was that, I mean,
No,
I'm happy
you
to
don't
write
want me
it
to write it.
with Paul.
I think it should
And
be
to write
that.
it.
It should be assertive and to the point.
Yeah.
and,
You got a problem, we want your help.
So
You
let's
created. it.
proceed with the vote on drafting this, and it's gonna be reviewed at our next meeting.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
And that's something we can vote on now, I
Okay.
think.
Yeah.
I don't wanna cut discussion off, but
No, but we can draft this Yukon pitch.
thank you for
Thank you.
volunteering to draft. We're ready to vote? All in favor of drafting this document? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Excellent.
It's going to the town council.
So just as an
Right.
anecdote in relationship
Yes.
to this, from what Paul just
And
said,
it's
so,
identifying the problem, no, not necessarily solutions. Those will come later.
when we were selling our house, and our house went for a pretty good price. We had, shockingly, investors who wanted it.
Yeah.
Because, and I thought, why would they want it? Because of the price that the house was selling for. Well, how could they possibly, because they probably would rent to more people than they would be allowed to rent to.
Even if they
And-
rent, well, the town is pretty good about keeping people from over renting.
Right.
But even
Yes,
so,
they
they come
do.
along, and offer you cash for a house. A young family that has to get a mortgage and they have to get a down payment money together. By the time those poor folks get their act together, 9 different cash offers have come from investment
Right.
companies that are gonna buy the place, throw a little money on it and rent it out.
Yeah, there was
So,
one cash offer, no inspection.
Yeah,
Mm.
so I get
Paul,
phone calls
you-
at home.
Paul, you forwarded me that Facebook post about the
Yeah.
Oaks.
Yeah, well, there's another thing going on. This is a sort of corollary. The Oaks recently has been taken over by Yukon.
In
The- all the-
Store Center, yeah.
What was,
Oh,
State.
the
what was
apartments.
public, off-campus housing for this year has become on-campus housing, because apparently they don't have enough space
How much-
to meet their percentage of housed students.
So they
Wow.
took over all of the apartments?
The state of Connecticut.
The whole,
When did they do that?
the
Oaks.
whole?
Yeah,
Wow.
Oh, my God.
they've signed a deal with the Oaks, and so all the people living in the Oaks are going through the university system now, and they're paying the university, which is then paying the Oaks.
Wow.
And I think that deal has been terminated for next year because they're building a new residence hall over here.
Yeah.
But apparently, right now, they don't have enough space to put all of their undergraduates that they want.
So
We'll
in
never
this,
get land.
They
Never
accepted
get
too many
land from them.
students.
in this draft, I think one of the
Yeah.
things would be that we need a regular, I don't know if it's dedicated, but somebody working on housing with the town. That this needs to be addressed regularly.
Town Yukon Housing Liaison or whatever.
Something, I don't wanna create more committee,
Well,
but
almost,
we need,
you can argue
we
that
need
there's
this to
somebody
be
on this
in-
committee.
we need an ongoing process focused on housing,
Yeah,
right? Because all these things happen that can be
And that has
really
actionable
major.
authority.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mm.
yeah, I know they've just gotten some new people in to staff their residential life office.
yeah.
They had done away with it and then they brought it back.
Right.
But I think those people are focused more on managing the
Student
the
conduct.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Supporting the
Yeah.
students.
I don't think they make policy on how they.
No, they're not gonna do it. Good, okay, so this is all good stuff. Are we ready to move on? So
Yeah, I think
we're
so.
on old business. So 5A, we've talked about, this is just the ongoing process by the PZC
Mhm.
related to high density zoning regulation amendments for the high density housing So they're having additional public hearings in August, if you're interested.
Yeah,
And there's a motion to extend the moratorium to the end of the year. So that'll eventually get voted on. So if you're really interested in that, there's plenty of meetings and minutes and videos, and there's 2 more meetings, I think, in
Yeah.
August.
I,
And as we've said over and over again, eliminating the fee in lieu is part of that.
there's some, apparently, this is not, there's not universal agreement on board that they ought to eliminate the fee in lieu.
Right.
And I don't know to what extent we ought to just be quiet or let it play out or still.
I don't think we should let it play out because it's much harder to get it reinstated. I really do. I almost think we should say that we oppose it, that we can, they can develop a straightforward way to raise it. Jennifer had some ideas, but that it really, they're gonna be in lots of negotiations with lots of people.
Our position at this point with them is that you're happy that they're getting rid of it. That's our official position.
The
That's-
current one, because it's so low.
Right, that's what I
Right,
thought.
they're getting rid of a broken,
I wasn't
broken,
here.
yeah, but that was we have already sent them a letter saying,
Hmm.
if you're gonna do
Yeah.
away with it, thank
Right.
you for doing away with it. But,
However,
so
But we didn't
And-
say to replace it with,
we didn't because we tried that and then they wouldn't buy.
well, you
We
said
tried
it
to,
privately.
we met with the chairman of the.
We made recommendations and they were ignored.
They didn't want to fix it and we
They
wanted to,
didn't like
Paul didn't want to fix it.
and they didn't put it before the board and
He
it never
didn't
got
bring it.
discussed. And so he set the agenda and didn't get fixed. His way of fixing it was to get rid of it.
So this is what it says in the new regulation that they're proposing. Use of alternate means of compliance. The use of alternative means of compliance pursuant to this section shall be reviewed by the commission on a case-by-case basis. In reviewing the appropriateness of the use of alternative to on-site development of required income restricted housing units, the commission shall consider the number of required income restricted housing units and the practicality of incorporating such units in the development, proximity of the proposed development to existing or planned employment, school, or commercial services, compatibility with surrounding land uses, and difficulties complying with local, state, or federal requirements. That's it.
that sort of
So-
gives them an out.
What gives them a negotiation ability, I
Right.
think, which is
But then to
okay,
do
Okay.
what?
to negotiate with the developer as to what the alternative means
Right.
of compliance
Well,
will
maybe
be.
there aren't any, so then what?
And what-
Well, what
Then they don't
we
build,
could-
they don't get to build. If they can't comply with the code, they can't build anything.
Okay,
So if you think about it, the 3 million we got from the hub is nothing compared to what it would cost to build those units.
no, I know that, but
So,
it's 3 million, and if they would just double the fee or whatever they would do.
Right.
It would have been 6 million,
Mm,
right,
and there will be other places, maybe in some more rural areas where you probably don't want affordable housing. Because it's not accessible.
Right,
So
so flexibility is good. We could make a recommendation to this committee after this passes as to what type of fee would be appropriate.
And what kind of
Based on
housing
our
replacement
study.
would be appropriate.
or just say, yeah, well, we should
So
look at
it
that.
says, this passes and it says, the use of an alternative means of compliance pursuant to this section shall be reviewed by the commission on a case-by-case basis. We could draft our recommendations for those
And on every,
Consideration.
Exactly.
we review plans.
after this passes.
When the developer comes
Either-
through here with their plan. They're gonna say, well, we wanna do alternate compliance. I'm gonna say, well,
what is it?
what is that? What's that gonna look like? And we are gonna have a voice to talk to the PZC and say,
So if
we don't like this, their
Part of the
idea.
alternative compliance would be a much heftier fee.
Right,
Or 30% AMI
But
units
they,
built
I
across
think
the
they have to
street.
build that into the
so
regulation.
we could
Yes.
be very proactive and draft what we think these alternate means should be.
And we
Yeah.
can set some criteria for what the kind of
And
issues they look
they're
at.
not gonna be something that they put into a zoning code. Because that has to be easy peasy, 4% of some number.
Yeah,
Instead, we give them priorities, we give them
needs.
and higher amount of
Right.
fee and lieu.
And yeah,
Whatever we decide that could be, and that'll just be our recommendations.
right.
And that's very proactive.
I think so. I think this
Now we
gives us,
just have to
gives
write
us
it.
an opportunity to set a standard that would more likely produce the kind of housing we need in town.
But they have to have that adopted as part of their code. They can't,
No,
The
it
code is-
says
That's apparently
an
all they need.
alternative means
I
of
know
compliance.
that, but it
That's-
can't be arbitrary.
Well, no,
No.
and we would have to help them set some sort of rationale that's fair and equitable and all
I mean,
that.
that's what I'm saying, that's what they have to do they can't have an arbitrary, it'll be thrown out of the courts.
Mm.
Perhaps.
It's, if it isn't spelled out, what those alternative means of compliance, what they mean by that.
Right, but the alternative means of compliance could mean that the value of whatever it is that they're going to give us, housing over here, or a new building, or renovations, or money, should be about the same as
That's-
what it is as the regular means of compliance, which is building deed restricted units.
I mean, if you think about.
Because
the
right now
hub,
it's not balanced at all.
If you think about the hub, there's a case where an alternate means of compliance, if it was
It
negotiable,
would have been good.
would have been good. We could have said
Right.
something about low-income students.
Yeah,
Right?
Well,
And
we,
say that's what we want.
yeah,
even
they just
though-
didn't, they steamrolled us on that because they didn't want to do it.
they steamrolled the town, they really
Yeah.
did. But I think the fee has to be, and maybe what we outline as priorities, because there were members of planning and zoning interested in this, that, for the affordable housing, that the planning and
We
zoning
can-
would set, not just at
Yeah.
80%, but, some limited units
Yeah,
at the lower.
no.
Yeah, that would be to our advantage.
Right,
That's
So
what
we
we
can, assuming this passes, we can write our priorities for this alternate means of
but
compliance.
why would it have to be passed before we suggested this to them?
Well,
No, it wouldn't have to be.
Again, timing.
It wouldn't have to be. And if
I
the
don't
issue
know when
of,
they're gonna pay,
if-
when is it?
Uh,
Did your wife
well, they're
say?
gonna move pretty
I
soon
think-
because they don't want
Yeah. I
they
think
don't
they're
want
gonna do
the
it in
moratorium to
September.
expire before they have this all nailed down, or else
No,
then there'll be
they-
nothing.
So they have 1 or 2 meetings in August,
One probably, I don't remember.
but I'm
Yeah,
just
for
thinking,
renewal.
when are we gonna get this draft?
Well, there's this. If the issue of whether to ditch the existing fee in lieu is going to be debated. And maybe it's not, maybe it's gone away already, but if it's gonna be debated, then that's means that we should come forward and say, look, go ahead, get rid of it, because your new proposal here is gonna give us an opportunity to help you set some standards that are gonna better meet the community's needs and set up, a rational policy for alternate means that will make sense compared to regular compliance, because it doesn't now.
Because, and that could include a fee,
It could.
financial.
Yeah, yes, absolutely could include money, but an amount of money that makes sense, not,
Right.
not a pocket change kind of situation.
So is there any other actions? I think one thing would be to be able to draft what we see as good alternate means of compliance. And the time on that and who's gonna do it is, I'm not gonna try to discuss tonight, but I think it's a good action. And I'll put it on
All
the
right,
next meeting list.
yeah, okay, I'll try to.
I think what I'm
But
gonna,
I don't see any other action. I mean, we submitted a recommendation.
I shouldn't miss a meeting.
yeah, or you should read the minutes more carefully.
I didn't see it in the minutes.
Anybody
Well,
else,
it's
any
must be
other
YouTube.
actions or anybody see anything else we should do in this domain?
Not as a committee necessarily.
Do we have a letter that,
Committee.
We have written,
it just said we discussed it at length.
and we wrote a letter and transmitted it, and it's in the PZC file with the whole thing.
What PZC file?
Well,
whole
the
thing?
public hearing, their communications
Okay,
on this issue.
It's there.
it wasn't sent to the committee,
It was sent to the
At some
PZC.
point
but it
was,
wasn't
yeah.
sent to our committee?
Yeah, it was.
Well,
it's
our
in
committee drafted it. We,
I know, but did this committee get sent the finished letter?
No.
No, I
No.
don't think so. Well, the
We
draft
should
and the
have been.
finished letter were really not much different, as I recall.
Yeah.
'cause I
yeah,
wrote it.
was like
So,
minor little
Dorothy, do
tiny
we have
edits.
the finished letter that was sent? Can that be sent to the committee?
Oh,
It's,
I can find it in
No.
the minutes of the,
okay, so we're gonna
All right.
distribute that.
yeah.
Actually, if you look at the PZC, you'll see everybody else's stuff also. So like,
Well, and the pushback was coming,
Economic Development.
yeah, they don't want,
Committee
they were
said-
talking about the fee too.
Right, but
They probably
they,
didn't like
you
it.
know,
They want to keep it, I think,
Oh, they
right.
did?
but they acknowledge that it's too low.
Right.
Okay, oh, they did.
so everybody acknowledges it's too.
Yes, that's the one,
That's a draft.
And.
That was when.
Was that in the minutes?
June
Hmm,
6th.
Okay.
That's when the.
Well,
I printed it out.
It's in the agenda, the June 6th agenda.
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
So
And it didn't get changed from that draft
I
status.
think the ball is in the PZC court.
Okay. Okay, there it is.
Everybody's telling them it's too low. They know it's too low.
Right.
They have a choice. They either increase it and keep it or get rid of it completely and do this.
I think,
And it's their decision.
yeah. Well, what I'm
Yeah.
gonna do as a private citizen is I'm gonna have my,
Citizens turn.
well, I'm gonna prepare an argument as to basically along the lines of what we've been talking about here. And if I'm watching the meeting and it appears to me that there's some momentum building behind this notion of keeping the existing fee in lieu,
No.
then I'm gonna say something, you know. But I don't know that, I think if Paul Aho and the majority of the committee the PZC want to get rid of the fee, they're gonna get rid of the fee. And then we'll be able to focus on what the alternate means,
Yeah.
best alternative
Yeah.
means can be.
Yeah,
Wow.
And getting rid of the fee also means they're acknowledging that it's not just the developers who should be
all right,
supporting the housing trust fund.
I'll
That's
look it up.
implicit as well.
good. Okay. We have 10 minutes left. The next section, I don't know if Jennifer's gonna be in, but the next couple sections are all just updated. So 5C is tax abatement ordinance. So Paul, Jennifer and I presented our recommendation for a tax abatement at the June 10th town council meeting. Council unanimously voted to refer the draft to the town attorney and the ordinance development review committee.
And then the town manager is trying to set up a meeting of that committee, and every time he doodles us to find out when we can meet, there's not enough people to meet. So
Right.
we're still trying to get a meeting.
So since June 10th, we've been trying to set up a meeting. But it passed unanimously. The town council was extremely supportive. So that felt really positive.
Yeah. So
The
it's
hard
just,
part is scheduling a meeting.
yeah, right. So by next year.
That's
we'll have a
really
meeting.
positive. So I think that's good.
Thanks for all your work on that.
Sure, it was fun. Let's see. The housing authority, I talked to Jennifer, she said there's been no developments there. So she went back to them and asked them to develop more detail for the proposal because it's needed to present to the town council. That Will shirt, nice shirt, Will,
Yeah.
Bermuda. Sorry. And they're swamped. And so they haven't been able to produce that. So there's no developments. I'm a little concerned that it's just stuck. We got an email from Susan Hunter today about Wayne's efforts.
Oh, we did?
I did.
Oh, you
Okay.
did.
So they're working on two things. Wyndham approached them and asked them to work on the Kramer School.
We're not doing that. We did a walkthrough of it. and
Oh,
it's not
really?
Suitable, yeah.
She
So that's not,
emailed today and she said,
we discussed that at our last board meeting.
oh, really? Okay,
Mhm.
she didn't say that. So. But she said they're actively looking for property in Mansfield to pursue a project
Mhm.
here.
Yeah, but
They
Kramer's
looked at
not
one
gonna work.
property and there was a problem, but they're actively doing it. So
Okay.
that's good.
Deborah, has Wayne talked to the Jeffrey Austin Foundation? Because the daughters now who run that,
Mhm.
if you remember that Eastern Connecticut, whatever the group was that we went to the meeting, anyhow, their daughter, one of the daughters was there, and she said they were interested in the affordable housing issue. And they would love to do something in Mansfield, particularly in their father's name and memory. So it would be worthwhile if Wayne has an actual project.
Yeah.
To sit
what-
down
what
with
is the
them.
Daughters, what is the family name?
It's Jeffrey
Austin.
Austin, the Jeffrey Austin
Jeffrey.
Foundation.
OSSE.
And I don't know
Okay.
whether Jacqueline, the daughter, is running it. I forget which of the daughters.
So
I'll-
Debbie,
I'll-
you're gonna take that to them, right? You're on.
Oh, yeah, I'll
Good.
check that. We had a private donor. And I don't think Susan revealed the name
No.
even to the board. But I think it was for Willimantic. So
Well, I
I'll
think
check
the
with
Austin
They're from
Foundation
here.
would be interested in something in Mansfield
Cause they're from
Right.
here.
with,
Yeah.
yes, with
Good
housing.
operation.
Because, you know, he
I
ran
mean, in her
mobile home
email, she
parks.
said they were looking. for
And
property.
You know that.
there's something
No, I know that.
pitched to
that
be
is true.
something in his memory.
Right, right.
Website and everything.
Wow.
What was that?
Just, I was just called up their foundation website and they're like focused on housing in
Oh,
Connecticut.
wow.
Yes.
Okay,
So they
I
got
have to look
some,
up
they've
their
got some
website.
skills going on over there.
And that's
okay.
one of my thoughts about,
I'll be meeting with Susan in a couple days, so. I'll
Awesome.
about
check that out with her.
If there's anything that
partnering
committee
with
can
them.
do to help, let us know.
Definitely.
Good. Let's see, staff reports, I think Jennifer would have some if she was here. Dorothy, anything you want to share with us? I know you want to get home. We'll get you home in 5 minutes. Communications, lots of stuff going
Yeah.
on locally, statewide, nationally,
Mhm.
unbelievable stuff.
Mhm.
So a list of things there, the decision by the Supreme Court, crazy.
Thank you for the list.
did you read, has anybody been reading about the developer who's doing, under 830G, he's doing affordable housing? He's mixed up. He's got, I don't know, he's doing like 30% affordable of mixed income. As well as, and then the rest market rate. And he's doing this number of them. He's New London, he's, I think, in Milford, Glastonbury, he's suing.
Yeah, I
Um,
saw that.
A number of, Avon, I think
Right.
Avon's accepted.
Wow.
And he's building, I think, modular units as he, so to keep the cost down. Something, it's very interesting. We need someone like that here.
Good, so our next meeting is September 5th.
Right.
We have a lot of topics. Does anyone have suggestions for topics? I'm gonna add projects in general.
Well, we have,
as a general topic.
we
with
had a-
some topics.
trust fund revenue source issue.
Yep,
Yeah.
so we have a lot.
And, recommendations to the council about.
Yep,
So we'll have to bring that stuff forward and
plus all business here is unresolved, so we have a lot of stuff.
For sure.
we'll also know more, by then, we'll know more about the status of the big rev change in.
That's right. That's right. Good, well. Excellent meeting.
That's going
Thank
on.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
Oh. Which,
Yeah,
really,
Mike,
I should
Good to
miss a
see you,
meeting.
Will.
Gonna have to.
You too.
Make a
Oh.
motion to, you make a, or do we?
I don't.
Make a
No.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
Aye,
No,
aye,
no.
aye.
Bye.
Thank you,
I
everyone.
will.
Thank you.
See you guys later.
All right, well.
See you, Will.
The rest of
See
the
your
country.
wife.
Take care. Thank you, Dorothy.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Dorothy.
Granddaughter just. got her
My,
driver's
both
license
of my
today.
children.
How old is
down
she?
the street.
She's
Yeah.
18.
Oh.
It really is.
She lives in